There have been many cases of child stealing in our city. Have you ever heard of kidnapping? Some of the families can't afford the ransom amount, so their children are just kept in the middle of nowhere. One day, I got caught in their web too. My name is Daniela Reels. I was 11 years old at the time. I went to school later than usual, overslept and was late. My mom, Courtney, offered to give me a ride to school, but she also overslept for work. So I refused, saying I'd take the bus. My mom came up to me that day, lifted her head a little, and kissed me on the cheek. That always made me cringe. My mom was shorter than me. I was tall, 150 centimeters at 11 years old, but my mom was 22 years older than me. Yeah, imagine, she looked just like a kid, like my little sister. She worked hard despite her looks, reached many heights, opened her own legal services office. She went through a lot because she couldn't be taken seriously because of her looks, and even heels and a strict suit didn't save her. Still, she got through everything with her head held high, often telling me, "Don't let people break you," which was her motto. Mom raised me on her own. Don't ask where my father is. I don't know anyway. I never even wondered. So that day she kissed me, gave me pocket money. I also asked why so much, to which she replied that she got a bonus and wanted to pamper me. That was nice. I hugged her and left for the bus stop. The bus still wasn't there, but another one came. It was going the same way, but I would have to walk a couple of stops. I chose to get on it since I was running very late as it was. Once inside, I took an empty seat. There were a lot of people inside. Everyone was crowding around. Suddenly, my wallet fell out of my hands and all the money fell out. Shit, I said to myself. Behind me, I heard people saying, "Oh, why give kids so much money? Is the mother not thinking with her head at all? Where did the baby get that kind of money?" Old ladies chattered. I turned around and said it was none of their business. Then my phone rang and I answered it. It was Sierra, my mom's secretary. She's adorable. "Hey, Miss Sleepyhead, are you awake? I already heard you overslept for school." "Yes, Sierra, I did." "That'll be $2 and coffee, just like we talked about." "That's not fair. I was late a lot, but on the days I wasn't, you promised me cocoa and cake too, but you didn't bring me anything." "It's a lot of work. Sorry, baby, I'll buy everything." "How about tonight? I'll come over to your house with your mom." "Oh, it's too expensive to argue with you." "You're the one who made the bet. If you're late for school, you give me coffee and $2. If I give you cocoa and pie." "Apple pie? Apple pie, I remember." "All right, I gotta go, or your mom's gonna fire me. Bye-bye." So I talked to her and I drove to my stop. I got out and ran towards school. Looking at my watch, I knew I was already screwed. On the way, I pulled out my phone to text my classmate, but it was abruptly snatched out of my hands by someone. "Wow, what a model! It's new, it just came out. Where did a schoolgirl get such a phone?" A woman I didn't know asked me. I frowned and asked her to give it to me, but she refused. Then I came closer, and a man came out from behind the bushes. They must have been in cahoots. I knew something was wrong, so I said, "Okay, take it, but don't touch me." I ran the other way, but it was too late. They managed to grab me, took my bag, and found the money. "Wow, if you have that much pocket money, it means you live well, right? Let's take you with us," the man said. They covered my mouth and put me in the car. They took me to a place I didn't know in the middle of the woods. There was a shack in the woods that had been trashed. I had a bag over my head. I was scared out of my wits, but I understood that they didn't want victims. Rather, they just wanted money from my mother. The most interesting thing was that there were other people in the basement, all about my age. They were scared, tied up, sitting on the floor and looking at me. "Stay there for a while," the woman said to me and walked out. The boys there and I got talking, and I remembered that I'd seen each of them on the news as missing persons. Their parents had been told to find large sums of money, and now they were being held hostage. When I asked why none of them tried to escape, they answered simply that they didn't know how or where. I looked around the room and noticed that there wasn't a single window, so the only way out was through the door, and it was locked. 10 minutes later, the two of them came back in, brought nasty food, and threw it on the floor. The other 5 kids rushed out to eat, and I sat up straight. "It's okay. In a day, you'll want even that." The man laughed. He came closer to me and asked for my mom's phone number. "Don't let me out. She'll come for me here," I said, but they just laughed and slapped me across the face. Then they took a knife and said, "I guess you're not afraid of anything, are you?" And they cut my hair off sharply. I squealed and cried, and then I told them my mom's number. These freaks called her and told her that her daughter had been kidnapped, and they were demanding a ransom of $2 million by tomorrow, or else it would be bad for her. I heard my mother keep her voice calm, then she asked to give me the phone. My mother said just 4 words. "I'll get you out." The perpetrators waited for her call, but there was none, not even the next day. Eventually, they called her, and she gave them the address to pick up the money. Of course, they left me there because they weren't going to stop at $2 million. They wanted more. Mom dictated Sierra's number. Apparently, she introduced herself as my mother. They made the call, and Sierra said she would give them whatever they asked for. They demanded a ransom by tonight. "But I won't have time to collect another $2 million by tonight," Sierra said, and the criminals said they would cut off something other than my hair next time, and hung up. When they came out, my mother hugged me. She told me that she'd come out as a decoy and that she'd prepared the phone. Sierra had tracked our location and was on her way to get us. We got so excited with the other kids. Just then, the door opened abruptly. The 2 men ran in and grabbed me by the throat. The men yelled that they'd heard on the news that their location had been traced. They screamed like crazy. My mom went up to one of the men and said, "Sir?" "What?" "It's not going to work anyway." "What do you mean?" Mom abruptly pulled a pencil out of her pocket and stuck it in his leg. He yelled, and a woman came running in, and I slammed the door on her. She fell to the floor, unconscious. The man didn't stop. He pulled the pencil out and jumped my mother. Under his weight, she could not breathe. He folded his arms around her neck, and I wanted to run to her, but because of my bandaged feet, I couldn't. I fell to the floor and crawled toward them. I could hear her breathing slowing. Was she going to die? I thought, no! I shouted with all my strength, and at that moment, the 2 girls came up behind the man and hit him with utensil they'd recently eaten with. They didn't manage to knock him out, but he was distracted. At this point, my mother quickly got up and kicked him in the face. He fell to the floor, and I pinned him down with a cabinet against the wall. We then sat on the floor, exhausted and scared, but no one else made a sound. A minute later, the police and Sierra were already there, so we were all rescued by my mother and Sierra, who called for backup, tracked our location, and found all the parents whose children had been stolen, just as I had been. It was a long day. The police chief personally thanked my mother for solving the case they'd been working on for a month. He and the mayor of the city presented Mom and Sierra with a certificate of merit and a medal for bravery. There was a lot more buzz after that. Mom, as a lawyer, took the case. The couple had about 20 counts of child theft from 6 states under their belt. They were looking at a long sentence. It took them a long time to figure out why the kid was working as a lawyer, but that was the thing that helped us a lot. Sierra brought home the apple pie. "Thank you, Sierra," I said, and she said to me, "Now you'll ride to school with me, and we'll both be late," she said and laughed. So guys, follow the safety rules. Don't flash your money in transportation, and also, just in case, always let your parents know your whereabouts. That's my advice to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashton. You can't imagine what happened to me, or rather to my family as a whole. But first, please answer one question. Do you think that all ages are really important for love? It doesn't matter to you that your match is older than you, much more, or opposite, if she is younger than you do not mind? Personally, I've always thought that everything matters except feelings. And if 2 people love each other, why not, right? Write your answers under my story in the comments, and I will definitely read each one. When I was 10 years old, I first fell in love. Yes, he was a friend of my father. And yes, he was much older than me. It seemed to me that this is the most real love. Every time he came to our house, I couldn't take my eyes off him. He saw it and was embarrassed. I would sit next to him or opposite and look at his face. He was my crush, and there's nothing you can do about it. My dad used to laugh when he saw it. Mr. Sanders always spoiled me too, and brought me lots of presents, especially for the holidays. And then he got married. He and his family moved to another country, and since then, he and Dad communicate only by video link. I've told this story 100 times to my girlfriend. I swear to you, he loved me. I always shouted to her, laughing, but Anna, my best friend's name, always giggled out loud and didn't believe it. She thought I made up the story. We were already 17 years old, and we all remembered the story and laughed. Anna, unlike me, looked much older. She was taller, seemed to be an adult, and her character and manner of communication were also not similar to mine as a teenager. When she came to our house, my grandfather greeted her especially warmly. He was still young in principle. He was at that time 60 years old when Anna and I began to visit each other. My grandfather lived with me, my father, and my mother. My grandmother died a long time ago, and since then, my grandfather lived with us. He loved her very much, as she loved him. But Grandma got sick and couldn't recover. Enough time had passed since the funeral, but my grandfather was still single, which seemed normal to us. Like his age, and there is no need to build a personal life. But this was only our opinion, and it turned out to be wrong. My grandfather was very active. As I said, he played sports, went to the gym, worked, and my grandfather was particularly scrupulous about his appearance, style, and ironed clothes. We didn't pry into his business, so we thought he was just doing it. But as it turned out, he was in a relationship, and he managed to hide them so carefully. It was just amazing. So, one day, Anna came to our house with pizza and a pie that she baked herself. It turned out that her mother went to a friend, her brother to a girl, and Anna was left alone. She was afraid to spend the night in the big house, so she asked to come to me. I was only happy. As soon as she arrived, we sat down to dinner. All through dinner, my grandfather seemed to be out of his mind, talking incessantly, joking, and making everyone laugh. After dinner, we decided to walk down the street with her, and Anna asked how old my grandfather was. I told her what and how, and she suddenly stopped talking. When I asked her what was wrong, she just said that everything was fine, and added that he looked younger than her grandfather, even though they were the same age. Yes, we have young parents, and they gave birth to us early. Before going to bed, Anna asked me how I would react if I had a new grandmother, and I told her that I would be happy for my grandfather. It's high time for him to find a single woman and be with her, and why not? Because they would live together, love each other, and build their own happiness, I said, to which my friend asked, what if my new grandmother was younger than my grandfather? I said what I really thought, that all ages are submissive to love. What difference does it make when two hearts truly love each other? Of course not. A couple of days later, when we met again, Anna said that she had something important to tell me, but I couldn't talk because I had to rush home for a family meeting. Anna chattered something after me, but I said I would call her back and ran home. On the way, I stopped by my mother's office. We went to the store, and when we got home, we saw that the house was set for a festive dinner. Are we celebrating something? The parents asked. My grandfather was sitting in the hall, looking so handsome in his shirt, but he said he wanted to tell us something. He started by saying that he was happy to have a family like us and blah blah. We sped him up to talk business, and grandfather said, I'm getting married. That was news. I jumped off and ran to him. It was wonderful. I asked her to meet us. My parents hugged my grandfather and congratulated him. And then Anna came out of the kitchen. I was scared when I saw her. Oh, when did we agree to meet? I told you I'd call, I told her. But Anna was timid as she walked towards me. Then my grandfather came up to her and hugged her. We stood there, shocked by what we saw. What's going on here? I asked, and my grandfather was like, this is my future wife. He said, what? What did you say? How is that? What do you mean? But how so? I could not find normal words. I looked at Anna, and she said that she tried to tell me this, but I didn't listen to her. My parents sat on the couch and drank water, and I just couldn't believe this was happening. I suddenly felt somehow uneasy. How and when they managed to hook up, and in general, why exactly? Suddenly, I felt angry and ran to my room. Anna ran after me, but I shooed her away. I didn't want to see her. I had the feeling that she had betrayed me. My mother came to see me in the evening. She tried to talk to me, but I suddenly started crying. She said that Grandpa loved Anna and really wanted to marry her. But my mother also agrees that the situation is strange. Okay, she'll be your grandmother and she'll be my mother-in-law, my mother said. And then I laughed. And it dawned on me that my father would call her Mama. I started laughing and my grandfather came to see me. Mom left us alone. Grandpa apologized for hiding it from me and all of us, but he was just afraid, thought it would all go away, but he understands that he really loves her and wants to be with her. We talked for a long time, and I began to understand that I could not prevent their happiness. After all, my grandfather was loyal to my grandmother, and he loved her, and who would have known what would happen? And when I reasoned like this, I knew that Anna is a great girl. She is precocious, smart, and beautiful. She is a good person, and my grandfather will be happy with her. So I finally stopped freaking out and made up with my grandfather. Anna came into my room a few minutes later. I hugged her and told her I would never call her my granny. We laughed and then went to dinner. Yes, it sounds crazy, and it is. They were married a month later. Her parents were also not happy about the fact that her daughter's husband is older than them, but what to do? You can't tell your heart what to do.